1 Corinthians chapter 15, beginning at verse 20. But now, Christ is risen from the dead. Oh, I love that. I love how he begins right there. You know, in the previous part of the chapter, Paul demonstrated beyond all doubt that Jesus rose from the dead. He demonstrated it from logic. He demonstrated from the scriptures. He called forth witnesses, the apostles, 500 people who saw him at any one time, his own testimony. Paul called forth all kinds of witnesses and established it beyond any matter of doubt. He's done discussing the issue. Right here in verse 20, he just states the fact, but now Christ is risen from the dead. Well, so what? He goes on. Now Christ is risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. For since by man came death, by man also came the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ all shall be made alive. But each one in his own order. Christ the first fruits, afterward those who are Christ at his coming. Friends, in these verses, Paul tells us a very important principle relating the resurrection of Jesus Christ to our own resurrection, and it's simply this. Jesus is the first fruits of our resurrection. Now, when Paul uses that term first fruits, he's using a term in the original Greek language that really had two kind of meanings. The word that he uses in the Old Testament was used for the Feast of First Fruits, which was celebrated by Israel. You know, every year they would have Passover, and right after Passover they would begin the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, and then on the day after the Sabbath, after Passover, okay, you take Passover, take the next Sabbath, the day after that Sabbath would be the Feast of First Fruits. And you know what you would do on the Feast of First Fruits? You'd bring an offering to God. But was it an offering of blood? Was it a bull or a ram or a goat? No, it was not. The offering on the Feast of First Fruits was a sheaf of grain. You would take the best first grain that came up from your fields, cut it down, and bring it in and offer it before the Lord. Now that took faith, first of all, because you're cutting down the best grain already, right? But it was also a way of saying, Lord, you have provided this. We trust that you're going to provide the rest of the harvest. You've given us the first fruits. We'll give the first fruits back unto you. And we believe that you are going to provide the rest of the harvest. Friends, Jesus Christ is the first fruits of our resurrection. His resurrection anticipates our resurrection. It represents our resurrection. Just as the first fruits were offered to God, and because of that they were assured the rest of the harvest. So Jesus is the first one resurrected from the dead, and his resurrection anticipates and represents our resurrection. Now let me blow your mind just for a minute, friends. Do you realize what day Jesus rose from the dead on? There was the Passover, then there was a Sabbath, and what was the day after the Sabbath? Sunday. That was the day the Feast of First Fruits was celebrated. Friends, Jesus rose from the dead on the day of the Feast of First Fruits. And he did it as our first fruits. He was the first fruits of the resurrection. And the offering at the Feast of First Fruits was a bloodless grain offering. No atoning sacrifice was necessary because the Passover lamb had just been sacrificed. And this corresponds perfectly with the resurrection of Jesus because his death ended the need for sacrifice. He provided a perfect and a complete atonement.